Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to day 41 of our Bhakti Vaibhava seminar on Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto. Let us begin by chanting our prayers. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So we are in chapter 14 of the 3rd canto. Chapter 14 is titled Pregnancy of Deity in the Evening, and if you recall from yesterday, we got up to we just read through the verses from verse 16 to verse 32 of section 3, where Kasyapa agrees to conceive a child with deity despite the inauspicious time. So we read through the verses themselves, from verse 16 to verse 32. Quite a dramatic incident. So let us continue on now and read the verses with the purports from chapter 14, from verse 16 to verse 32, where DT is just going to insist, and Kasyapa, even though he tries to pacify her, make her reasonable, and convince her, look, it would be better, let's just wait for some time. She will not agree, and she literally just grabs hold of him, and they engage in sex life. Right, so we read through the verses themselves yesterday from verse 16 to 32. So let's go through again with the purports. Verse 16. O hero Vidura, being thus afflicted, O hero Vidura, deity, being thus afflicted by the contamination of lust, and therefore poor and talkative, was pacified by the son of Marichi in suitable words. Well, that's one way of putting it. He tries to pacify her, but unfortunately, he's not successful. So, there's a shortish purport here, but important, that Prabhupada says, when a man or a woman, anyone, is afflicted by the lust of sex desire, it must be understood this is contamination. This is sinful contamination. And Kasyapa, of course, he was engaged in his spiritual activities. He had just performed a yajna. He had just performed a yajna and was now engaged in meditation. So, it really was not the right thing at all. So he just performed a yajna. Now he's in samadhi. He's in a trance-like state of meditation. And as will come out as the narration goes on, he's meditating. He's deeply entranced in meditation, but not on the Lord himself. It's an impersonal type of meditation on the Brahmajyoti, right? And that's a contributing factor to him not being strong enough to tell his wife, listen, we will do it, but at the right time, which he could have done. So anyway, yes, so he was not as strong, Prabhupada says, he was not as spiritually strong as Vidura. Vidura is addressed here as a hero because he's a devotee, and there's no one stronger in self-control than a devotee. So, but having said that, Prabhupada makes interesting and important point. It seems this Kasyapa was already inclined to engage in sex life with his wife. So therefore, he only spoke weakly to her. He wasn't a strong enough man to really dissuade her. Prabhupada says, he tried to dissuade her only with pacifying words, rather than being the husband and just saying that, no, not now, which is the duty of the husband as the spiritual leader of the family. So verse 17, O afflicted one, I shall forthwith gratify whatever desire is dear to you, for who else but you is the source of the three perfections of liberation. So Srila Prabhupada gives a fairly substantial purport. He begins the purport by saying the three perfections of liberation are religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification. And Prabhupada continues, for a conditioned soul, the wife is considered to be the source of liberation because she offers her service to the husband for his ultimate liberation. Means that she offers her service to a husband for dharma, artha, and kama, religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification. And in sort of the general scheme of things, you would go, the average person would go through those three stages and then get into liberation. But to go through the first three stages, religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, you have to have the help of a wife. And in this way, she contributes to his liberation. Right, so Prabhupada makes the point that material life, of course, is based on sense gratification. And if a man has a good wife, she helps him in sense gratification. It's just about the easiest sort of duty. Help your husband with sense gratification. But if a person is disturbed in their conditional life, their material life, in other words, if there is not a good wife to help with the sense gratification, then a person becomes more entangled in contamination. I mean, in the sense, he might have to visit a prostitute or find somebody to be a wife, and who knows if that somebody would be a suitable wife. So in this way, his material life would become difficult. But a faithful wife is meant to cooperate with the husband in fulfilling material desires. And in this case, Diti, she's ready. She's ready. Let's get into fulfilling material desires right now. But she is meant to cooperate under the supervision of the husband and not telling the husband what to do and when to do it. So, but if she's cooperative nicely like that, then he'll be comfortable and can carry out his duties, material and spiritual duties, and make progress. And if he is able to progress nicely, spiritually, the wife shares in his activities and she shares in the benefit. So they both profit spiritually. It's teamwork, grihasta teamwork. So therefore Prabhupada makes the point, and it's really important. So the girls and boys have to be trained so that when they are married, they know to cooperate and they know how to cooperate. And like we said, just to cooperate for sense gratification, that's easy. But to cooperate properly for sense gratification, the husband has to be spiritually strong enough to give direction. We will do it at this time, not at that time. And that's the problem with Kashyapa. He wasn't strong enough to what would you say, to sort of enforce that we are going to do it in this way, not in some other way. Right. So the training, what is the training then? The boys and girls have to be trained. The training of the boy is brahmacharya, and the training of the girl is chastity. She has to be trained, particularly by the mother and the other ladies, to be chaste and learn how to be a chaste and faithful wife. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, a faithful wife and spiritually trained brahmachari are a good combination for advancement of the human mission. Right, and on we go to verse 18. So yeah, and again it's Kashyapa, but he's in this mood of like, he's just too cooperative, you could say. He's just too willing to do whatever she says, which will keep her happy, rather than being a little stronger and more directive and really insisting that things are done in the best way, the proper way. So he continues though, verse 18. As one can cross over the ocean with seagoing vessels, one can cross the dangerous situation of the material ocean by living with a wife. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada makes the point that the four ashrams are there, but the ashrams depend on the householder ashram, the other ashrams. So Prabhupada, the way Prabhupada puts it, is the brahmachari ashram, pious student life, household life with a wife, retired life and renounced life, they all depend for successful advancement on the householder who lives with a wife. So this cooperation is essential for the proper functioning of Varnashram, the 4 social orders and the 4 spiritual orders. Yes, the Grihasta, well, Prabhupada makes the point that what is actually the Varnashram system nowadays is generally known as the caste system. Anyway, he just makes mention of that, but then he gets back into discussing actual Varnashram, that the Grihasta, the man who lives with a wife, has a great responsibility to maintain the other ashrams, the brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis, because except for the householders, everyone else, brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis, is supposed to simply be focused on their spiritual cultivation. They don't have time, and it's just inappropriate for them to work to make a living. So therefore what they do, the brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis, is they go around and they collect alms from the householders. In this way they maintain themselves, because the householders, they understand their responsibility, and therefore they're happy to support the brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis. So therefore, by the grace of the Grihastas, the other 3 orders, Prabhupada says, secure the bare necessities of life. And their main business is they cultivate spiritual understanding. So, for the Grihastas themselves, who are working and earning and supporting a family, and at least the husband is leading the family, by helping the other 3 ashrams, the Grihastas make spiritual advancement by service, by serving the devotees. And the wife who assists her husband in that, she shares in his spiritual advancement. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, so ultimately they all become spiritually advanced and easily cross the ocean of nescience. Right, so verse 19, Kasyapa, O respectful one, a wife is so helpful that she is called the better half of a man's body because of her sharing in all auspicious activities. A man can move without anxiety, entrusting all responsibilities to his wife. Prabhupada begins the purport by confirming, basically, that it's a Vedic injunction that the wife is called the better half of a man's body. It's confirmed. Yes, it's a Vedic injunction. Because she does half of his duties. And without her help, he could not do his duties. So Prabhupada continues that the Grihasta man, a family man, has to do 5 types of sacrifices. It's called Pancha Yajna, to get rid of the reactions incurred in the course of maintaining the family. What Prabhupada calls unavoidable sinful reaction is incurred by the householder when he's working in different ways to maintain the family. So therefore he has to do these special 5 types of sacrifice. But if the household man does not do that, he doesn't do the sacrifices, doesn't take responsibility for the sense gratification, he just tries to enjoy it. Prabhupada says that when a man becomes qualitatively degraded like a cat or a dog, then he takes the wife as an object for sense gratification. And then what's the main thing? Is, how does my wife look? Does she look nice enough? And if she doesn't look nice enough, then he may think, let me trade her in. Let me change her, get a better looking one. This is Kali Yuga, of course. This is real Kali Yuga. So then, as Prabhupada says, as soon as there is a break in the sense gratification under those types of circumstances, then there's at best disruption in the relationship, in the family. And even not just disruption, but oftentimes there'll be divorce. However, when the couple aim for spiritual advancement by cooperation, then there's no consideration of beauty or disruption of so-called love. And then the fact is that marriage is actually a duty performed in mutual cooperation for spiritual advancement. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, therefore marriage is essential in order to avoid the life of cats and dogs who are not meant for spiritual enlightenment. Cats and dogs, and for that matter, basically any species other than human, they're just not equipped, not designed for, not meant for spiritual enlightenment. So then, Kasyapa, who's just kind of getting really carried away with himself here, he continues in verse 20. As a fort commander very easily conquers invading plunderers by taking shelter of a wife, one can conquer the senses, which are unconquerable in the other social orders. I mean, just see his enthusiasm. It's quite amazing, actually. Gosh. I mean, it's nice. The husband and the wife, they must appreciate each other as devotees and how each is contributing to the other's Krishna consciousness. But you don't need to get, like, completely overwhelmed by it. Srila Prabhupada explains that of the 4 ashrams, brahmachari, grihasta, vanaprastha, sannyas, Prabhupada says the householder, the grihasta, is on the safe side. Because the senses are so strong that at least people who are simply on the material platform, like just materialistic people in Kali Yuga, they are so dominated by their senses, it's just pathetic, actually. I'm totally overwhelmed. Servants of their senses. So yeah, therefore the senses are considered to be plunderers of a fort. The body is the fort, and the senses are trying to overpower and take control of the fort and enjoy the thought. The senses are trying to overcome the body and enjoy the body. But the wife is like a good commander of the fort, like a general who can rally the forces and defend the fort from the attack of the senses. So the wife is like commander of the fort, and when there's an attack on it, she defends it. And Prabhupada makes the point, and it's one of the fundamental points of life in this world. Everyone has sex demand. It's not just that some do, whereas others don't. Everyone has sex demand. But one who has a fixed wife is saved from the onslaught. Fixed. Not having any time when sex demand comes, then having to go find one or find another one, or fixed wife. So therefore he's saved from the onslaught. And otherwise, Prabhupada makes the point, without a fixed wife, a man becomes a debauchee, and is a nuisance in society. And I mean, not maybe just a nuisance, but really causes chaos, unless he's a trained brahmachari, vanaprastha, or sannyasi. And unless, Prabhupada makes the point, unless a brahmachari is well trained by the spiritual master, and unless the brahmachari is obedient, he is sure to fall prey to the attack of sex. And there are instances, Prabhupada gives the example of Vishvamitra. We won't go into the whole story here, but he was a great yogi, practicing, he was celibate, but then he got attracted because he wasn't really fixed spiritually. And this is the thing, of course. If Prabhupada says, unless the brahmachari is well trained, and unless the brahmachari is obedient to the spiritual master and the training of the spiritual master, then he's sure to fall prey to the attack of sex. But if the brahmachari is well trained and is obedient, then he can be protected from the attack of sex desire. So, but anyway, so that's, okay for a brahmachari, but the grihasta, the householder, is saved because of having a faithful wife. And therefore, and sex life is allowed in the grihasta ashram, but only the grihasta ashram. And Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, the grihasta is responsible for producing first-class brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis. Okay, and on to verse 21. O Queen of the home, we are not able to act like you, nor could we repay you for what you have done, even if we worked for our entire life, or even after death. To repay you is not possible, even for those who are admirers of personal qualities. Okay, and again there's, fairly substantial purport dealing with essentially the same subject matter, but little different perspectives are coming in here and there. So this is important. Prabhupada says there's so much glorification of a woman. I mean, Kashyapa is just going on and on, how you're so wonderful, you're so wonderful. And that's there. the good grihasta wife is very good. But so much glorification of woman means either the husband is henpecked or is joking. So, yes, okay. Well, in the case of Kasyapa, and it appears, at least from the way it all works out, is that he's henpecked, and she has successfully pecked him into doing what she wants. At least, well, that's the way it works out. So Kasyapa, what he means, what he's trying to get at, is that grihastas enjoy the heavenly blessings of sense enjoyment, but at the same time, they have no fear of going to hell. Because if the brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis engaged in sex life, they go to hell, or they may well go to hell. So and Prabhupada gives the example. A man in the renounced order, sannyasi, has no wife. So if he becomes overpowered by sex desire, he may have to find another woman or even another man's wife and engage in sex life and go to hell. So, yeah. So householders are on the safe side, and therefore they have a debt. It's a fact. They have a debt to their wives in this life or next. And Prabhupada makes the point that they may not be able to repay their wives for the great debt they have. Prabhupada says, not all husbands can appreciate the good qualities of their wives, but even if they do, they can't repay them. So, that's interesting. But then Prabhupada says, here we go, devotees. Listen to this. I mean, this is really crucial point. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, such extraordinary praises by a husband for his wife are certainly in the mode of joking. He is joking with her, or else he's henpecked. All right, so on to verse 22. Even though it's not possible to repay you, I shall satisfy your sex desire immediately for the sake of begetting children. But, and here we go, Kasyapa is going to try to take control of the situation and take control, you could say, of his wife, and tell his wife that not now. Just in a little while, don't worry. He's going to make an attempt to sort of rectify the situation. Something like that. But unfortunately, as we'll see, and when we read through the verses, we saw he is going to fail. Prabhupada makes the point that the henpecked husband may not be able to repay his wife for all the benefits he gets from her. There's sex life, there's cooking, and maybe washing the clothes, keeping the house clean, keeping the house nice, looking after the children. Well, she does a big job. And the husband may not be able to repay her for all the benefits he gets, but to at least repay the part of giving her children is no problem, Prabhupada says, unless the husband is thoroughly impotent. Otherwise, it's very easy for your sort of normal husband to repay his wife by giving her children. And Prabhupada makes the point, which we've touched on a little bit here and there, Prabhupada mentioned, that actually Kashyapa was eager. He was very eager. He was not self-controlled. He was eager. He wanted to do it. But to avoid criticism, he said to wait a few seconds. You know, this is not the right standard, actually. And now he's going to explain why should we wait at least a few seconds. But actually, what the point really is that we should wait. Ideally, we should wait till tomorrow, when everything's more in the mode of goodness, not at night, particularly this twilight time where Shiva and the ghosts are moving about. But the morning, which is very pious and sattvic, we should wait for that. But he's not up to it. So he says, this particular time, because it's twilight, this particular time is most inauspicious, because at this time, the horrible-looking ghosts and constant companions of the Lord of the Ghosts are visible. Right. So there's a little purport here. Actually, it's just one sentence. He's already told her, let's wait. But now why? Why should we wait? That because if we don't, we are going to be punished. The ghosts and evil spirits who are moving around with Lord Shiva, they are going to punish us, and it's really going to be bad for us. And just, just for the fairly short experience of sex life, to then face years of having to deal with bad children, it's really not worth it at all. All right, so on we go to verse 24. Lord Shiva, the king of the ghosts, sitting on the back of his bull carrier, travels at this time accompanied by ghosts who follow him for their welfare. So Prabhupada explains, Shiva or Rudra is the king of the ghosts, and these ghostly people worship Lord Shiva for improvement. They may not understand it so clearly, but the effect of worshipping Lord Shiva is they gradually become guided toward some sort of path of self-realization, some sort. And Prabhupada makes the point that the Mayavadis generally worship Lord Shiva. Shankaracharya was an incarnation of Lord Shiva, and his mission was to preach godlessness to the Mayavadis. So, yes, the ghosts, they have no physical bodies because of their sinfulness. There's so many types of sinful activities which can be made, and these people become ghosts because they've done generally extensive, very sinful activities, so they become ghosts. But Prabhupada gives the example of suicide. Suicide means you show you don't want the body. Body is frustrating. No more body. So therefore, when they commit suicide, material suicide, it causes the loss of the physical body. Then they find they are without a physical body, just a mental body. This is a ghost. And in the mind, there's so many desires. Oh, the mind of the conditioned soul, sinful conditioned soul. So many desires, but now, having no physical body, there's no way of expressing the desires, or at least trying to satisfy them, even though you can't really satisfy material desires like sex life and so on. You don't really find satisfaction, but at least you can do something about it. But now without gross physical bodies, but still having the desires, being a ghost, very frustrating. Right, so material suicide causes the loss of the physical body, even like for some extended period of time, and spiritual suicide causes the loss of the individual identity. And Prabhupada makes the point, the Mayavadis, they want to lose their identity. We don't want to be persons any longer. We don't want bodies any longer. We don't want relationships any longer. They want to lose their individuality and supposedly merge into the impersonal Brahman. So Lord Shiva then, with the ghosts, now we're talking about the ghosts, not exactly the Mayavadis, but those who have become ghosts. Lord Shiva, being very kind to the ghosts, sees that although they're condemned, they get physical bodies in due course, not like right now. Yeah. So what does he do? How does he do that? Prabhupada explains he places them into the wombs of women who indulge in sexual intercourse regardless of the restrictions of time and circumstance. Loose women. So Srila Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, Kasyapa wanted to impress this fact upon Diti so that she might wait for a while. A while. Better till tomorrow, but as long as you can manage. All right, so on to verse 25. And Kasyapa explaining further, trying to, impress upon Diti that, come on, please, we've got to be a little self-controlled for a while. So he's continuing, verse 25, Lord Shiva's body is reddish, and he is unstained, but he is covered with ashes. His hair is dusty from the whirlwind dust of the burning crematorium. He is the younger brother of your husband, and he sees with his 3 eyes. The younger brother of your husband means he's Kasyapa's brother, younger brother. Yeah. All right, so there's a fairly extensive purport here. Prabhupada explains the position of Lord Shiva, as he's done on a number of occasions, but briefly again here. He's not an ordinary living entity like us, but he's not in the category of Lord Vishnu, the Lord. He's in his own category. And he's far more powerful than any living entity, even including Lord Brahma, actually. But he's not as powerful, not on an equal level as Lord Vishnu. But because he's almost like Vishnu, he can see past, present, and future. He's Trikalagya. And not only that, he has 3 eyes. So Prabhupada elaborates on this. One of his eyes is like the sun. Another is like the moon. And the third between the eyes is like fire. And he can generate fire from the middle eye. And in this way he can vanquish anyone, even Lord Brahma, but not Lord Vishnu, of course, but anyone, including even Lord Brahma, within this material world. But still, even though he's so powerful, so special, so, you could say, unique in his own way, yeah, but he doesn't live pompously in some big house, or in any house for that matter. Doesn't have any material property, even though he's the master of the material world. Mainly he lives in crematoriums. Yeah. And he dresses in ashes from the crematoriums. But still he's such a person. He's unstained by material contamination. So Kasyapa, we referred to this, the younger brother of your husband idea. Kasyapa is taking him as a younger brother because Diti's sister is married to Lord Shiva. Sati, we just read about Sati and all those dramatic happenings. Yes. So Kasyapa is taking him as a younger brother because Diti's sister's married to him. And the husband of the sister is considered the brother. This is like Vedic sociology, part of Vedic sociology. So Kasyapa is saying, what he's saying is, you know, it would not be a good thing to engage in sex life now because Lord Shiva is going to see us. And that wouldn't be nice. It's inappropriate. And he's thinking Diti might say it, well, she might say, we can do it privately, find some private place. But Kasyapa is saying he has three eyes, the sun, the moon, and fire. So you can't escape him. Anywhere, anytime, with one of his eyes at least he's going to see us. So you can't escape his vigilance any more than we could escape the vigilance of Lord Vishnu. And Prabhupada gives an example. It's an interesting example. Although the police may know that some person has performed criminal activity, they may not immediately capture him and punish him. Sometimes they wait for a suitable time. Yeah. So therefore the thing is that this forbidden activity done at this forbidden time, it will be noted by Lord Shiva, and therefore consequences will be there for both of us. But you've got to think for yourself, Diti. You will be punished because you will be the one who gives birth to some sort of ghostly character or some sort of godless impersonalist, or how about Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, which is going to be the case. So Kasyapa foresaw this, and so he warned her, tried to get through to her. Unfortunately, not really successful. In fact, just plain unsuccessful. So verse 26, Lord Shiva regards no one as his relative. In other words, don't think that because he is your brother-in-law that he's going to think, oh, it's all right, we'll let them off. No, no, no. Lord Shiva regards no one as his relative. Yet still there's no one who is not connected with him. He doesn't regard anyone as very favorable or abominable. We respectfully worship the remnants of his foodstuff, and we vow to accept what is rejected by him. Right, so let's look at the purport. Well, we already made the point. Kasyapa has told Diti, don't think that because we're related to Lord Shiva, or you are related, that you can commit an offense against him and it will be treated differently from how he would treat anyone else who makes an offense of this sort. Because he's not connected to anyone. No one's his enemy. He just treats everyone the way they need to be treated. So since he is one of the three controllers, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, he's equal to everyone, no favorites. So his greatness is incomparable because he's such a great devotee, and it's even said he's the greatest. I mean, that in itself is an interesting point, and I'm sure we'll go into how to understand that. But at the very least, he's a great devotee, and some will say under certain circumstances he's the greatest. Therefore, his remnants are Mahaprasad, and therefore it's beneficial to take his Mahaprasad. And he's so great, he's so advanced, he doesn't care about material wealth. And look at his wife, Parvati. She's the material nature personified, but she's fully under his control. Not only does she not pressurize him into engaging in sex life just whenever she feels like it, but she doesn't even pressurize him to build a house. Prabhupada says, his great wife, Parvati, his great wife, also agrees to live with him, Lord Shiva, humbly. So people worship her, Parvati, for material gain. But he engages her in his service with no material desire, because they have nothing. They live under a tree. He simply advises Parvati, Lord Shiva, that of all kinds of worship, worship of Vishnu is the highest, and even higher than that is the worship of great devotees. Yes. Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnur aradhanam param. What is it? Something rather, Devi, tadiyanam samarchanam. All kinds of worship of Lord Vishnu is highest, but even higher, tadiyanam samarchanam. Even higher is worship of the great devotees or anything related to Lord Vishnu. Right, so on to verse 27. Although no one in the material world is equal to or greater than Lord Shiva, and although his unimpeachable character is followed by great souls to dismantle the massive nescience, he nevertheless remains as if a devil to give salvation to all devotees of the Lord. So this, of course, is referring to how Lord Shiva, he stays in crematoriums, applies the ashes of cremated bodies to his body, and allows ghosts and other low creatures to associate with him. Yeah, so it's never abominable. It's never abominable. Because he's teaching us how to practice detachment in the mood of mercy. Yeah. How to be detached from the material appearances and situations in material life, and be willing to approach even degraded people in material life to give them Krishna consciousness. And therefore, because he's so special, he's called Mahadev, the greatest of the demigods. And on the material level, no one's equal to or greater than him. He's almost equal to Lord Vishnu. Yes. And even though he associates with Durga Devi herself, the form of the modes of nature, still he remains above the modes, above the reactionary stage. And although in charge of these devilish characters in the mode of ignorance, smoking marijuana, drinking liquor and whatnot, still he is not affected at all by such association. So let's just have a look here. Yeah, we will, what will we do? 28. You know, I think we'll finish here. We'll finish with this verse, because 28, the next verse, has little extensive purport. It'll probably take, it might take 5 minutes to get through it. So there you go, devotees. What an interesting part of Srimad Bhagavatam, my Lord. It is really, really such a special part of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we should take note of it very, very carefully, and really seriously apply ourselves in devotional service, chanting the holy names, and like that, to get out of the situation, the dangerous situation of entanglement on the material level. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.